All right, my friends, it's day 4. Today we're going to talk about an exciting piece of the process, and that's where you're going to get stuck. And I like to add this in because I, again, want to set you up with realistic expectations. Want to set you up with realistic expectations of the fact that even by following the 4R framework that I shared with you yesterday, even by going through the restoration process and learning to communicate with your metabolism and utilizing the AIM method, you're still likely to get stuck. I told you yesterday that failing forward is a part of the process, and it's a really great part of the process. So what does it look like to fail forward? Failing forward looks like that we recognize that there's going to be obstacles, that there's going to be resistances, and you keep doing it anyway. You keep showing up. I had a client ask me a few months back what my success rate was. And I found this to be a really interesting question because the reality is when I have clients that are invested, they're dedicated, and they're ready to put in the effort. And by put in the effort, I mean show up consistently and willingly for the results that they seek. My success rate is incredibly high. In fact, I would almost be willing to say 100%. Truly, when we go through this process, if you show up, if you stay with it, if you stay consistent, your success is inevitable. Why? Because you're building a plan, you're building a lifestyle that is uniquely yours, and you can't not be successful at that. I'm not asking you to put yourself in a nutritional box that so many programs and so many coaches and so many gurus ask you to do, right? I'm not asking you to buy expensive shakes or expensive pills or things like that. I'm asking you to do something that's truly sustainable. And so that success rate is really high. Now, does every one of my clients become successful? In all honesty, no. And so I've gotten really good at being willing to step back and say, okay, why was this individual not successful? And so here's some of the things that I have learned throughout my own process personally and professionally as a coach. So I talked about the fact that your metabolism is designed to keep you safe. And I started to briefly go into the mind when I talked about the reframe process yesterday. The fact of the matter is that we also have another element of our body that's designed to keep us safe. And we cannot look at our hormones, we cannot look at our metabolism out looking at our brain, right? Because that's a pretty big and important piece of the puzzle. And so within our brain, we all have an ego. I know it's not something that we really want to be proud of, but it's true. We all have an ego, and that portion of our brain, again, is designed to keep us safe. Our metabolism seeks balance and homeostasis in order to keep us safe. Your ego, your brain seeks control. That can be a really great thing, and it can actually be a really challenging thing when we're actually trying to change. Because much like I told you that your metabolism can't look into the mirror and say, gosh, I'm not really happy with this, or I don't feel my best and I would like to actually change things. Your brain is not thinking, wow, it would be really great for Sally to lose a few pounds and to get rid of some of the challenging symptoms of her PCOS, Hashimoto's, or menopause. Your ego saying, I can control where we are right now because I know it, it's known, and this is safe. So that can actually be really challenging when you're saying, I'm ready to change, and you're looking in the mirror and your metabolism says, we're good here. We've adapted. And your brain saying, we're good here. We know this. And so this is where a lot of folks wind up getting stuck. If they're taking the steps, they're using the assess, investigate, and modify, they're restoring the metabolism. And that's why the reframe process that I went through yesterday is a non-negotiable piece. It's something that so many people want to skip because it's scary, it's not sexy, and it's not fun. But it's a non-negotiable if you're actually going to move forward. Why? Because in order to move forward, you have to change who you are right now, not just how you look, not just what you do, but who you are at your core. And that can be really scary, but most importantly, it's unknown. And so you might be listening right now and you're saying, no, I'm pretty miserable where I am. I'm pretty sure my brain's not going to tell me that this is a great place to be. And so I want to challenge you on that, because none of us set out to self-sabotage. None of us. Self-sabotage is a subconscious behavior. A lot of us can recognize it after the fact if we're willing to be vulnerable and take ownership, like I spoke on yesterday. Some of us aren't to that stage where we can step back and take ownership of the fact that we self-sabotage or we have self-defeating behaviors. And so, as I mentioned before, change starts with awareness. So a really great place to start with this is, again, not to shame yourself, not to beat yourself up, not even to make yourself wrong, but to start to notice, hey, I'm self-sabotaging. This is self-defeating. This is not a behavior, a choice, or a decision that lines up with the outcome that I desire. And so if you pause for a moment, you can probably actually really think about it. I really don't know what it's going to feel like to not have these symptoms, to not be dealing with this. This is a part of my identity. It very much was a part of mine. Fighting my fatigue, I dare say it wound up becoming an excuse that I could grip onto, a reason that I couldn't do things. And that got really comfortable, even though logically I was miserable. And so in order to change, I had to do a lot of things that I wasn't used to. I had all the education, I have all the knowledge, tens of thousands of dollars in my education on hormones and metabolism and things like thyroid function. I knew that this could get better. The ego part of my brain it's like, we don't know what it's like to live like that. We know what it's like to live like this right here, right now. And so there's a lot of ways that that can get in your way of moving forward. Another thing that I will challenge you on is the conditioning and all the messaging around what you actually need to do to lose weight and to feel better. These fad diets, these crash diets, these nutritional boxes. For most of us, those are actually known. So it feels more controlling, safer. We know what it feels like to crash diet. We know what it feels like to crash diet and gain the weight back and fail. And so while logically you may be saying that's miserable, I never want to do that again. Control-wise, from your ego, says we can do that all day long. We know the outcome. We know what it feels like. There's nothing unknown here. And so your mind is where a lot of us are getting stuck. I like to tell people that some of these mindset traps, some of these perceptions are kind of like Instagram filters. It literally, mindset is just how we're seeing, how we're perceiving the world. And so we can all see the same thing, and it just looks different. That's why coaching and mentorship can be really, really powerful, because while you're looking at something with an Instagram filter over your eyes, your coach or your mentor or your support system is actually able to see things really clearly, step back and see the bird's eye view and say, no, this is actually what's going on. Coaching is my superpower. I absolutely love to be able to hold and support my clients through these massive transformations and breakthroughs by literally just being able to help them clear the filter and see things clearly. Because if we're not careful, that element of control is going to keep you in a really unhealthy and stuck place. So I wanted to share 3 transformation stories today, not as a way of comparison. By the way, comparison is one of the mindset traps that I coach my clients on in my program. This is not about that. But I wanted to share these 3 transformation stories. I picked 3 of my clients that I've had recently in the last couple of years. All 3 different women from 3 different areas of the world with 3 different goals, just to actually show you what was possible and how they got there. The first one that I want to share with you is Lisa. Lisa came to me. She had some health issues. She was dealing with a lot of stress. She was 20 pounds overweight. She was dealing with fatigue, anxiety, all kinds of different metabolic issues, metabolic resistance. Turns out that she had Hashimoto's, so thyroid issues, all kinds of different things working against her. She was having aches and pains in her body, trouble getting up in the morning. But the thing was, when Lisa came to me, she was eating really well. She was already logging her food, paying attention to what she was eating plenty of vegetables. She's actually doing really great. She was doing yoga, incorporating, she was working with a mental health therapist, doing a lot of stress relieving tactics. Actually, working with Lisa was really, really daunting when I did her intake. I was like, wow, she's doing a lot of the low hanging fruit things that I would immediately start with. And so together, Lisa and I worked through the restoration process. We discovered that her metabolism had negatively adapted to lots of years of restrictive dieting. Even though she was eating really well, eating well isn't enough to actually make the change. We had to start to refeed her metabolism. We worked together in a very strategic way to get through this process, to rebuild, to understand her tolerance of carbohydrates. She had been eating keto for a while. Make sure that she was getting ample protein. She was already drinking plenty of water. She was already getting plenty of steps. She was already doing so many things. And together, over a period of 4 months, Lisa dropped 18 pounds while eating 500 calories more than she was when she started with me. She's no longer anxious. She still does have a Hashimoto's, and we're working through that together. She has more energy. Her brain fog is gone, and she has never been more motivated to actually enjoy and live her life. Lisa loves to hike. She loves to be outside. She loves to do all kinds of things that she hadn't been able to do for years, and she's able to do now. She's perimenopausal, and so she was really concerned about going through that shift the way she was currently going with the fatigue and the brain fog and the muscle aches. But as of right now, she is proud to report that we're not dealing with night sweats. We're not dealing with some of the negative side effects of the hormonal changes that come along inevitably with menopause. And so that's a really exciting place for her to be. I'm super excited for her. And I love to see the biggest shift that she's made throughout the last 4 months. And that's the mindset. When Lisa and I started working together, she was so fixated on the scale. Each and every week, it was challenging. It was a huge mental block for her to eat more food because, again, the conditioning, eat less, exercise more. And so it was really a leap of trust that Lisa took in me to be able to hold her through these mindset limitations, these limiting beliefs around what it was going to take for her to actually change her body and change her life. And so at the point that Lisa came to me, she had been working with a trainer. She'd just done all the things, and she really was at rock bottom. I will try whatever. But that didn't come without resistance. Even though logically she knew she needed to do something that she'd never done before, we still hit obstacles and resistances at every single thing. It's fair to say that we are in a much more growth-oriented mindset now, but we still have so many little blocks that keep rearing their ugly heads. As I mentioned before, the reframe and the resilience piece are not things that ever go away. It's a work in process for forever. So continuing to work together, Lisa has continued to shift her mindset as we work through her Hashimoto's, as we continue to work through perimenopause, and as she continues to find balance for where she is now and where she wants to be in the future, as she continues to age and age gracefully and do so in a way that is empowering and feels strong to her. The second transformation story that I want to share with you is Hannah. Hannah is someone that came to work with me. She was working at a popular chain boot camp 5 days a week. She was going at 5:30 every single morning. So she was working out incredibly hard. She was tracking her macros. She felt like she was eating really well. Her protein was on point, but Hannah was reaching the end of her 20s, early 30s, and she wanted to start a family. Tricky piece about that is she had PCOS and she had no period to speak of. So the interesting thing when we go to our metabolic health and the metabolic science, again, with your metabolism trying to keep you safe, is one of the things that it'll take away from you in energy save mode when it's trying to keep you safe is your menstrual cycle. Why? Because your body doesn't feel like it's in a safe place to be able to carry a child, to give birth, and to actually be able to nourish that child no matter how you decide to feed it. Our body perceives that we need to be releasing certain hormones, prolactin, to lactate and feed a child. And so Hannah wasn't able to start a family if she didn't have a menstrual cycle. And so Hannah and I worked together, refining her macros. We worked together for the restoration phase. We worked together in the rebuild phase to refine her macros, make sure that she was eating in the right combinations for her body, for her PCOS. We did scale back on her exercise, and that was the biggest mindset block for her. She, for so long, and she's young, for so long had attached the fact that the more she moved her body, the better her body looked. She needed to exercise in order to maintain the physique that she wanted. And so it was a really, really challenging thing for Hannah to be able to scale back to prioritize rest and recovery. Interestingly enough, really early on to our journey together, Hannah suffered from a back injury. It was just minor, but it was enough to take her out of her boot camp classes 5 days a week. So we worked together prioritizing steps and stress management, quality nutrition, adequate water in order to be able to maintain her physique and to continue to support our goal of supporting her body, her hormones, and her metabolism so that she could fulfill her dream of starting a family. Hannah continued to work with me on some of her struggles around social scenarios, emotional eating, stress eating. We worked together over a summer period where she had many vacations and wanted to learn to find balance with the way that she was eating. She wanted to find balance with her body so that she didn't constantly feel like every time she went on a weekend trip, she came back on Monday morning and she was bloated and miserable. That was one of the biggest mindset blocks for her. Together, we worked on her social drinking, her social eating, and continued to work on prioritizing rest. Proud to say that Hannah was able to get back to her boot camp classes that she did love due to the community, which community is a big part of wellness. But we went back on only 3 days a week so that we could prioritize walks with her husband and her dog for stress relief and steps to support her metabolism, to support her hormonal health. And when Hannah wrapped up with me, I am proud to say that she had a consistent and symptomless period consistently, and she is well on her way to be able to fulfill her dream of starting a family. The last client that I want to share with you, her name is Tanya. Tanya is a busy professional traveling for work all the time. She's another one that came to me. She was working out inconsistently, doing random workout classes here and there, and she also was struggling to undereat. Tanya and I worked together on what is called a reverse diet to restore her metabolism, to rebuild her macros and find that balance for her. She felt at the time that she was in full-blown menopause because she didn't have a menstrual period. Full-on menopause, she was dealing with frequent wakings in the night sweats, she had excess belly fat, and she was just generally unhappy. She was having to travel all the time, dealing with different time zones, and she had children, and the fatigue was getting the best of her. She also had a high stress job. And so dealing with brain fog and forgetfulness and the anxiety of that was making her miserable and making her snappy with her kids and her boyfriend. And she also mentioned her dog. So as we worked together, we found a workout plan that not only worked with her physical goals, allowed her to travel, allowed her to work out at home when needing to at the hotel gym or when she was able to get to a gym. We found the perfect balance for her so that she could build muscle, which was a part of her goal, something that she desired. She actually started to get her menstrual cycle back. No symptoms, no cramps, no moodiness, no PMS, but she was able to get her menstrual cycle back. And it turns out she wasn't actually in menopause. And so in doing that and balancing her hormones through her nutrition, through her lifestyle, working together on some stress management, some mindset issues, and building a lifestyle that did create a resilient metabolism that allowed her to be at home and then travel all the time and work in a high stress job. She is cycling regularly. She has a solid relationship with food. She's eating twice as much as she was when she came to work with me. And she is able to go out and travel and enjoy all kinds of different foods without feeling guilty. And again, without coming back the next week and feeling like she's absolutely blown all the progress that she's done. Tanya is another great example of somebody that had to work around the mindset limitations of what it took to actually create the physique that she wanted in believing she needed to eat less and exercise more. In the spotty exercise that she was doing, she was trying to way overdo the cardio. And we found the perfect balance of doing cardio that she enjoys, that's supportive of her cardiovascular system, as well as building the muscle to support bone health, to support strength, and support a resilient metabolism. These three ladies dealing with potential menopause, PCOS, and Hashimoto's are three excellent examples of women that did get stuck multiple times throughout their journey. And they were able to use the stickiness, the resistance, the obstacles as a way to find new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and new identities, which is such a huge piece of the process. I know it sounds scary when I tell you that when you go through a transformation like this, no matter what your result is, no matter what your intended goal is, you will change who you are at your core. You will change your identity. And going back to the piece of the ego, That's really scary for your brain. Your brain knows who you are right now. Your brain likes who you are. And I hope you like who you are too. But it is totally possible to like who you are now and to evolve into a higher version of yourself for your health, your future, and your family. So I hope that these 3 stories, again, are inspiring, because none of these ladies really, when they started working with me, had the belief that they were actually going to achieve the result. And so I want to leave you today with your action item. Today, your action item is going to be to start to question, do you actually believe that your result is possible? I know it sounds super woo, and I want to give you some evidence and some science-based truths to be able to support this. Visualization is an evidence-based practice that can be really powerful when we're setting out for a transformation. And so in starting with shaping that belief, I want to give you an activity to do where you literally close your eyes. Please don't do this if you're driving. You literally close your eyes, take a couple of breaths and settle into your body. If I had a magic wand, waved it over you, and it took away every symptom, every pain, every frustration that you have currently, and you were able to wake up tomorrow morning and you felt the way you wanted to feel, you looked the way you wanted to look, and your lifestyle was the way that you felt excited, like you could do this forever, what would that look like for you? And then I want you to get curious. What needs to shift in order for that to happen? And do you believe that that's really possible for you? Because I'll tell you one thing about your ego and about your mind, is that if you really don't believe it's possible, your brain, your mind is going to throw every single excuse, every single obstacle, every single wall in front of you to prove you right. That's a part of control. That's a part of the ego. We want to be right. And so if you are listening to this and you desire a healthier and happier future, I really want you to desire that, to believe in that, so that you can prove yourself right, because you can do it. Notice where you're going to get stuck. Anticipate the obstacles, anticipate the resistance, and you can move past it. So take a moment, work with some visualization. By the way, this is something that major sports teams do before they go into games and tournaments and competitions or whatever. Clearly, I'm not a sports person. It's powerful. So take a few moments, do the activity, and I will see you right back here for one more day, day 5. Can't wait to see you then. Hope you have a great rest of your day.